Well, I have 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, January 11th, 2021 into session. I was hoping to have Ed Raber with us. We're going to have the first thing on the agenda is a proclamation, and we have the screen being shared with the public. And I don't know, is Ed, are you here? Or I don't have the information before me as to who's brought forth the proclamation and information to that effect. So does anyone have that background information for us?
I am here. This is Ed Raber, and I believe that we have on the call Sister Sandy, who would have to unmute herself. But in the packet is and on the screen is a proclamation that I believe the county has participated with for the last several years. It is submitted to us by the Tri-States Coalition. And if I could, Chair McDonough, I would read the proclamation today.
That would be fine. Shall we take just a moment and see if there's anyone here who would like to make public comments? If there are, we can hold for that. I once again jumped ahead on the agenda. I am so sorry, but just take a moment to see if we have any members from the public who wish to address us. And if they do, being in electronic format, they'll have to raise their hand. Dawn, can you assist with that to see if anyone would like to speak about any matter which is on the agenda?
Oh.
I would speak.
I do see two. Thank you.
Looks like we have Mary Lou Irons who would like to speak.
Very
Yes.
good.
I'm a member. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm a member of this group, and each year we do different projects to make the public aware of our efforts to educate and be an advocate against human trafficking. So last week we were at the City Council, and this week we've come to this group to ask that you proclaim January as National Anti-Human Trafficking and Human Slavery Prevention Month. We are a group that's existed for about 5 years. We are currently working on revising our hotel motel training because of the new state law. We are also working with both the parochial and public school system to be a resource for them as they include human trafficking in their curriculum. They have some really good things in place right now. We're just advising. And the last thing I want to bring up is I hope we are all able to be back at the Dubuque County Fair, because that's one place you will see us. And I think Mary Lechtenberg is also here. I don't know.
Mary Lechtenberg, Franciscan, and our group began in March of 2014 and it began with the religious sisters of the area, and now about a third of the group is laymen and women who have joined us, which we hope continues to happen. Our purpose is to educate the public on the evils of sex trafficking and labor trafficking. And so we found that a year ago when we were at the fair, more people stopped on their own initiative at our booth rather than us going out and enticing them with a basket of candy, you know. So more people are learning about this and want to know about it and have experienced it right here in Dubuque. So our activities have been limited since March, but we are working by Zoom on local committees. And we're working with the state network to devise or create, refine training that hotels and motels can use to educate their employees on the signs of human trafficking. So that's a real big thrust in the whole state right now, and we are connected with them. So we really appreciate that the County Board of Supervisors has given us this proclamation, and to help people in Dubuque County be more aware of the anti-human trafficking efforts. So thank you for your time.
Thank you both very much for being here and speaking. Do we have any other members of the public who wish to address the board at this time? I do not see any. Does anyone else have a record of another person who wishes to speak? Very good. Ed, if you'd like to read the proclamation in, and then we'll ask for a motion to approve.
January 2021 National Human Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Whereas by presidential proclamation, each January has been designated National Human Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And whereas the issues of sex trafficking and labor trafficking are a violation of human rights, the hope of this proclamation is to raise awareness of this topic. And whereas the County of Dubuque wishes to acknowledge the following organizations for their work to combat human trafficking: the Tri-State Coalition Against Human Trafficking and Set Free Dubuque. And whereas the United Nations Global Plan of Action has 3 pillars upon which it stands: protect, prevent, and prosecute. We invite all residents of Dubuque County to educate themselves on this issue and to support these 3 pillars to help eradicate the problem. And whereas human trafficking is both a national and local issue, we invite all civic leaders and citizens to support the efforts of the Tri-State Coalition to train all local hotel and motel staff in recognizing the signs of trafficking. This proclamation adopted on this 11th day of January, 2021.
And it does appear that we do need to change the proclamation that is before us. The date says January 11th, 2020. So we'll get that correction made. Very good.
Correct.
With that correction, do we have a motion to approve the proclamation?
I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation as presented and revised related to the date.
Do we have a second?
I unmute myself. Yes, I will second that motion.
Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 4th. And those minutes do contain the list of the boards that we as supervisors have agreed to serve on. So paying particular attention, of course, to that. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would make the motion to approve the minutes.
And I will second that.
Motion to approve in a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have consent items. And we have a motion to approve a liquor license for Dubuque County Fairgrounds listed as A. It is a renewal. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion in a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Second item is the auditor's quarterly report. Did we have any questions about this report? Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
And I will second that motion.
A motion and a second to approve the auditor's quarterly report. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we're on to, normally in our agenda, we would have procurement procedures at this time. We do not have anything before us. So moving on to item 5, which is a public hearing. This is a notice of a public hearing that will be set. We're looking for a motion to approve that notice.
I'll make a motion to approve the public notice.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to approve the notice. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you. On to the approval of plats. Our zoning administrator, Tammy Henry, I believe, will be with us. And is Tammy here with us on Zoom? And,
I am, Ann. I
very
am.
good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate all the extra work that you did in putting together memos and notes and such, walking us through the approval of plat. So turning the mic over to you.
Okay, thank you. So the first one we'll do is the Ganson Farm Subdivision Plat 3 Final Plat. This property is owned by Elaine Ganson and is located 1.42 miles south of the city of Piasta along North Cascade Road with a total of 37.45 acres surveyed. The property is zoned A1 agricultural. The purpose of this plat is to allow the house and the farm buildings to be separated from the crop ground for financing purposes. The survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 27.45 acres surveyed, and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 2 is a total of 10 acres with a house and some farm buildings, and it will remain in current ownership and use. Lot 1 and Lot 2 will use an existing entrance off of North Cascade Road. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat, and there are no liens or mortgages on this property, and all the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as the plat's officer, and it has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. So this is a separation of a home and some ground. Elaine Ganson will continue to own the property at this time, but eventually some of that property will be purchased by her son.
Do we have any other questions for Tammy regarding the Ganson Farm Subdivision Final Plat? If
I
not,
do not.
looking for a motion to approve the final plat.
I'll make a motion to approve the plat as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second approving the plat as presented for the Ganson Farm Subdivision Final Plat. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Tammy. That is approved. Our next plat will be the replat of Lot 1, Lot 2, and Lot 28 of Paradise Hills Second Edition. Tammy, can you walk us through that, please?
I sure can. The property is owned by Robert and Jacqueline Yeager and Roger Higley, and it is located 0.17 miles west of the city of Dubuque along Majestic Drive with a total of 4.03 acres surveyed. The property is zoned A1 agricultural. The purpose of this plat is to reconfigure Lot 1, Lot 2, and Lot 28 and sell Lot 2 to a neighbor to the south. Lot 1 is a total of 2.31 acres surveyed, and it will remain in current ownership and use. Lot 2 is a total of 1.19 acres surveyed, and it will be sold to the neighbor to the south. Lot 28 has a total of 0.53 acres surveyed, and it will be combined with a lot to the west owned by Roger Higley. Lot 1 and Lot 2 will have access off of the private road Majestic Drive, and Lot 28 will have access through the adjoining property to the west owned by Roger Higley. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat, and there are no liens or mortgages on this property. All the signatures are current. This plat has been reviewed by myself as plat's officer, and it has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. This is, the Yeagers are looking to, Mr. Higley to the east is looking to, or to the west, I'm sorry, is looking to purchase some of this land because there's a ravine and Mr. Higley maintains that land. And so it's a fencing issue. So the Yeagers are selling some property to Mr. Higley so he can maintain the property. And then the adjacent lot, the lot 2 to the south, then the neighbor below is looking to purchase that. So this is really just redoing some property lines.
Do you have any questions for Tammy Henry? Looking for a motion to approve the resolution of the final plat.
I would make a motion to approve the resolution of the final plat.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of the replat of Lot 1, Lot 2, and Lot 28 of Paradise Hill, Second Edition. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. The next plat before us is the final plat of Higley Homestead. Tammy, if you'd like to walk us through that, please.
The property is owned by Roger Higley, and it is located 0.17 miles west of the city of Dubuque along Humke Road, with a total of 20.54 acres surveyed. The property is zoned R1 rural residential and R2 single family residential. The purpose of this survey is to combine 2 lots into 1 lot. The survey creates Lot 1 and has a total of 20.55 acres surveyed and will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 1 will have access through 2 of 1, which is owned by the property owner by Roger Higley. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat, and there are no liens or mortgages on this property, and all the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plat's officer. It has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. This is the follow-up plat of what we just discussed. This just takes that little acreage that we talked about and joins it to Mr. Higley's property.
Are there any questions for Tammy?
I'll make a motion to approve the plat as presented.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the plot as presented of Higley Homestead. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the final plot of Sigurd Bradley Place.
Okay. So the property is owned by William and Janet Sigurd and Sharon and Bradley Trust, and it is located adjacent to the city of Dubuque along US Highway 20 and the Southwest Arterial and English Mill Road, with a total of 252.665 acres surveyed. The property is zoned M2 heavy industrial. The purpose of this plat is to allow Sharon Bradley Trust to acquire additional farm ground. This survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 41.853 acres surveyed, and it will be sold to the William and Janet Sigurd. Lot 2 is a total of 210.812 acres surveyed with an existing farm home and buildings, and it will be owned by Sharon Bradley Trust, and it will remain in agricultural use. Lot 1 will use an existing entrance off of US Highway 20, and Lot 2 will use an existing residential entrance off of English Mill Road. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat. There are no liens or mortgages on this property. All the signatures are current, and this plat has been reviewed by myself as plat's officer, has all the required signatures, and I respectfully recommend approval. So they're just acquiring some more land, and this is all adjacent to the city of Dubuque. And the M2 zoning doesn't affect this because it is farm ground they're using as farm ground. And so it's not going to create any changes out here.
Are there any other questions for Tammy?
I have none.
Looking for a motion to approve the plat as presented.
I will make a motion to approve the plat as presented.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the plat as presented of Sigurd Bradley Place. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Our final plat is that of Spring Valley Park Edition number 2. Tammy, back to you.
Okay, this property is owned by Spring Valley Investments, Inc., and is located 5 miles east of the city of Dubuque along Route 52 South, with a total of 78.314 acres surveyed. The property is owned PC Plant Complex. The purpose of this plat is to separate the timber ground from the mobile home park for tax purposes. The survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 51.716 acres surveyed of timber ground, and it will remain in current ownership and use. Lot 2 is a total of 26.598 acres surveyed with a single family home and a mobile home park, and it will remain in current ownership and residential use. Lot 1 and Lot 2 will use existing accesses off of Highway 52 South. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat, and there are no liens or mortgages on this property. All the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plat's officer and has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. This is, he is just literally separating the park And there is actually a small storage unit on this property as well. So those things are being separated from the 51 acres, which is all timber. And it really is because he was being taxed for the whole piece as residential.
Any questions for Tammy Henry?
I have nothing.
Looking for
I'll
a
make a motion
motion.
to approve the plat as presented.
I have a
I'll
motion.
second. I'll
Have a
second the
motion.
motion.
Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve the final plat as presented of Spring Valley Park Edition number 2. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy.
All right, thank you.
Next items on the agenda before us are action items that the board may approve, deny, or table. The first item before us is a resolution approving Sunnycrest exempt pay program extension. I believe we had a memo from our Human Resources Administrator in the packet. Dawn Sherman, did you want to mention anything to us about this resolution?
Thank you, Chair McDonough. This was initiated at the request of Tammy Freiberger, and I did review that request and agree with it. That when the board previously approved this, it fortunately was not needed. It was not as utilized as we thought it would because they had some additional staff over the holidays with college students. Those options are not going to be available to Tammy and her staff. And as we continue to go through the COVID vaccination process and have some positives up there, she anticipates having to utilize this for the next couple months. So we're requesting this be extended through April 30th of this year.
Are
Chair
there any?
McDonough?
Yes.
I do have a question. I was wondering if we could table this until Tammy gives her report in the COVID section. I have some questions related to vaccination rates and overall employment issues.
I'm fine with that. Do we need a formal motion? I think we can move that item ourselves, just set that aside, and we'll come back to that before the end of this agenda.
I'm comfortable with that.
Very good. All right, we'll move on to, Harley, do you have any questions about that? I mean,
No.
our agenda reads we can take this in any order. So let's
Okay.
move on then to action item B, which is also, I believe, Dawn Sherman's going to address with us. And there was a memo in the packet as well about leave for COVID-related employee absences.
Thank you, Chair McDonough. This was a federal requirement that employers provide leave related to COVID-related illnesses. This was not extended through the stimulus, most recent stimulus package. So it did sunset on December 31st. We discussed it with the department heads last week because we do continue to see employee absences related to COVID. About an average of about 350 hours of COVID leave is in the last 10 weeks has been used for employees. So I'm requesting to extend this as a county policy to allow this leave for those employees who have not utilized it already. Again, it's only related to any COVID related, if they are experiencing COVID, if they are subject to quarantine because of a close contact, or if they have some childcare issues, they would have some leave for that too. So as we continue to see these, this pay would be available so employees would not have to utilize their own pay. And so I'm recommending to extend this through March 31st as we continue again through the vaccination process and hopefully see fewer and fewer absences related to COVID.
Thank you, Dawn. Do we
Can
have
we bring the
questions?
resolution up, please? The resolution is not presented.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Just stopping for a moment to make sure we've had a chance to obviously see this, but also if you need greater context or have any personally appreciate March 31st. We intend to do this. We've been doing things, I think, kind of incrementally and not making policies for long periods of time as we progress through the pandemic. Do we have any questions of Dawn?
You said it was around 350 hours over the last 10 weeks, Don?
Yes, I had my staff pull that on Thursday, so we could take a look at that, and I shared that with the department heads as well. So, and it's across all county departments as well.
Okay.
If we have no further questions, I would be looking for a motion to approve the resolution extending the leave.
I would make a motion to extend the leave for the resolution, yes.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution extending the FFCRA leave for COVID-related employment. We will have discussion. Hearing nothing, I will ask all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. The next action item on our agenda is letter C, resolution to approve the amended fiscal year 2021 Dubuque County Secondary Road 5-year construction program. And I know we had County Engineer Anthony Bargett with us earlier this morning. Is he still with us, and does he have anything that he'd like to address with the board?
Yes, good morning. So what this is about is for the John Deere, I guess, South John Deere Road, West John Deere Road, Prue Road build grant project that we have going on. We made the revision to the project to decouple the Northwest Arterial from the those county roads. And in doing so, we had to resubmit our concept statement to the DOT, redefining the project limits and location of the project. At the same time, we need to make sure that the concept statement matches up with the construction program. So what you have before you here is the amendment, an amendment to the actual project itself within the construction program. Just redefining the project limits and the description of the project to make sure that both sites match each other.
Anthony, then would you say it's more clerical in nature? It's not substantive?
Yeah, it's very clerical, but the DOT and the Federal Highway are very specific on these details. So if one thing is not matching each other, it could risk funding reimbursement in the future. So we want to make sure this is dialed in right here.
Very good. Are there any other questions for County Engineer Anthony Bargett? Looking for a motion to approve the resolution to amend.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended fiscal year 2021 Dubuque County Secondary Road 5-year construction program. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Anthony. On our agenda, we are to item 8, which is communications. The motion here would normally be to receive and file without taking any action. The first and only communication that we have on the agenda is to receive and file the City of Dubuque's North Grandview Estates Housing Urban Renewal Area. Did anyone wish to make that motion?
I will make the motion to receive and file.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. On to appointments. The task before us today is exciting, I think. We've had tremendous response to our request to have citizens join our boards and commissions to give input to the county and the work that we do really at the grassroots level. And the response has been at least in my time on the board, unprecedented. And part of that might be that we are drawing people's attention to it, putting it at a certain time on the calendar, and giving it great weight. I don't have a background as to how we would look at citizen appointments. It might bear a bit of discussion among us as three as to how do we want to go through this. We have some commissions where it's very easy. There may only be one applicant or two applicants. Others where the Board of Health and the Conservation Board, where we have numerous applicants for positions, and there's only maybe there's not enough slots that everyone will be on that board and commission. So I guess just kind of as a general matter, would we want to put forth individual applicants from each of us, or would we be looking at addressing individual applicants? Some thoughts, I guess, how we might go about this. Supervisor Wickham, you have the greatest experience here on the board. Asking just kind of your impression how we might proceed.
Yeah, I would echo first what your statements are. It's a good problem to have, where you have more volunteers for appointments. That in my 5.5 years, I haven't seen that as often. So I'm very pleased that we have the participation level that we do at this point, at least the interest level. As far as going forth, I think the Conservation Board and the Board of Health, I think, are the largest members related to people that are applying. The only way to kind of get through this today, if that's what the intent is, and I think we probably should, I don't know if there's a need to belabor or to put off the individual appointments. That said, would probably just have each supervisor mention their 1, 2, or possible 3 candidates that might be on their lead list, and if we have some discussion, that'd be fine. And then you might find a match, and once you find a match, we might get an actual motion to appoint that person.
Supervisor Potoff, any thoughts?
That would work for me, I guess. I'm not quite sure how to handle this either. It's a large pie. You just got to take it piece by piece, I guess.
That's right. But I think as long as the idea is that we're grateful, and obviously we very much are. So I think Ed Raber has tried to crunch all this data into a memo form, which I very much appreciate, stepping us through. Everyone has tremendous credentials and background experience, but with this memo, he does address whether someone's from the city of Dubuque or has outreach or, maybe greater connection to the county at large. So I thought that was good information, and that memorandum is in the packet that was sent out to everyone as well in the community who requests our information. He begins with the background of Iowa Code Chapter 69.16A.2, which requires that our boards and commissions be gender balanced. And so we'd want to be looking at having equal numbers of men and women on our boards. I think for future discussion, we have to comply with the code, but that question isn't always one that we should maybe feel free to ask. In today's world, individuals don't identify necessarily with gender base anymore. So, but looking at that, we know we want to be sensitive to balance. I think his memorandum steps us through where we need to be, perhaps where it doesn't need to be as a high of concern because the position's been open for some length of time. So just kind of being sensitive to that as well. So the first commission, I think probably Ed Raber just set this up alphabetically, I guess. Ed, did you want to have a minute to put any greater context here, or am I just going to proceed through this? Am I doing okay?
I think you're doing fine. The beyond what Supervisor Wickham laid out as a way to approach this, I don't have any sort of better suggestion for that. Even the order is arbitrary, it's alphabetical. You can do it as you see fit. I think you've highlighted the things that I wanted to make sure were noted. This follows a format that I think Dawn and I have been trying to bring forth the last 6 months, the way people that are seeking appointments that you've acted on, the sort of information that we're providing. I would say as you get into that, I'd be happy to tee up each individual one for you. There are some where there's multiple appointments, and the terms that you may assign individuals to may not all be the same term end. Sometimes they're vacant positions, and that term that is vacant may have already started, so you're sort of stepping into a vacant one. So we want to make sure from a recording standpoint, or for if any motions are made, that this is not the case in all of them, but I've tried to note it in the cases where it is, that you want to make sure that you're making a motion about an individual to fill a particular term that has a particular end date. So I will hang with you here. There is no magic about this. So you were doing fine. If you'd like to do that, that's fine. I'm happy to assist any way you want as we step through it.
Well, I guess my proposal would be, Ed, that you would then kind of lead us through the appointments so that we do get this right. And I know that on at least one of the boards of health, we're going to have to stumble through some new end dates. Likely my colleagues will want to join in that. We'll see. But so if you want to go ahead and begin with the Airport Zoning Commission, why don't you walk us through some things?
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor McDonough. The Airport Zoning Commission is a joint commission with the city of Dubuque for the Dubuque Regional Airport. On that, Dubuque County can appoint 2 people. We have had 2 people there. There was only one person that has been serving that essentially reapplied to seek reappointment. That is Gary Frederick. His application is in there. These appointments are for 6 years, so it's quite lengthy. I believe that this commission only meets on an as-needed basis. So I am not particularly familiar with how often that has been or will be. I think as we talk about earlier today about the area of Dubuque County that continues to have development pressure, this is sort of in that general area, so it is an important commission. I would not minimize that. So at this time, there's
I'll make a motion to appoint Gary Frederick to the Airport Zoning Commission.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Gary Frederick, continuing on the Airport Zoning Commission, and that would be for a period of 6 years. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Good. The next board is the Board of Health, I believe.
My memo on that starts on page 120 of the meeting packet. I believe it's green. I did that for my benefit so I could see where we were, a little change in color.
Would it maybe, if I could speak for a second, Ann?
Yes.
Would it maybe be better if we went through some of the smaller ones first and then come to the Board of Health and Conservation last, as they're going to be kind of lengthy ones, to make sure we get as much done as possible, or however you want to handle that, but just a suggestion.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. It's going to require Ed to jump a bit, but that's okay. So the next one then, Harley, I think that you would like to take up is Eastern Iowa Regional Housing Authority. That's on page 160, I believe, of the agenda packet. It's page 6 of your memorandum. Ed, do you see that?
I do. I am at page 160.
Okay, very good.
So the Eastern Iowa Regional Housing Authority is a housing authority that serves a multi-county area, including a portion of Dubuque County that is not the city of Dubuque. They have their own housing authority. This is not the county's entity. However, we're asked to make appointments to that. And I believe in talking with Eastern Iowa Regional Housing Authority leadership, they can't be county supervisors. So this is one where it's generally been from the public. The county has 2 appointments that it makes there. One of those is currently filled. I believe that that may have happened last year. There is 1 vacancy on that board, and there is 1 applicant for that board. Unlike some other county commissions and boards, ERA doesn't apparently have set terms. They can be open-ended, and some of their jurisdictions do it that way. I might offer up to the supervisors that you do have some sort of term end. The current term for the other individual serving is in 2023 in July, or the end of June, at the end of the fiscal year. I might suggest that you pick up, it could be anything you want, but maybe not the same time as ending in 2023. So perhaps 2024. So Mr. Steve Davis from rural Dubuque is the only applicant that has submitted for that 1 seat.
I would make a motion to approve him for the position.
And
And I will
an
second
end
that.
date, and an end, did you include an end date in that motion, Harley?
Sorry, I did not, Ed. I would make a motion to approve Steve Davis for the position with an end date of June 30th of 2024, or July
will
1st.
second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve Steve Davis to the Eastern Iowa Regional Housing Authority Board with an end date of the end of June 30th of 2024. Have I stated the motion correctly?
Yes.
Very good. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Supervisor Potoff.
Yes.
The next one is the county's eminent domain compensation commission, and this begins on page 163 of the packet. So this has some complexity to it. The eminent domain compensation commission has 4 different parts to it. 1/4 are persons with agricultural property, owner-operators of agricultural property. Another 4th or 7 positions for persons that own property in the city. 1/4 are persons having knowledge of real estate, like real estate brokers actively. And the last that are essentially bankers, property appraisers, and auctioneers. What happens is that when, in a nutshell, when an issue comes up that requires this entity to make a ruling, they don't all gather. The chief judge of the judicial district selects by lot persons from the list to assess the damages to all property taken by the right of eminent domain. So each individual person, their name would only come up sporadically, even in the times that they're called for, just when the judge by lot draws them out of a hat, essentially. So this is a group that does not meet regularly, meets when they are needed and when their name comes up out of the hat. So of the 28 positions, you're about half full. The 2 applicants that responded right at this time, there is a man, Joe Delaney from rural Dubuque, who has commercial property in the city of Dubuque, and that is where he is applying to be added to that list, for lack of a better word, or that sector about city property owners, commercial property owners. And Ms. Mary Goebel, a woman from rural Holy Cross, who is owner operator of farm ground, and she is asking to be added to the farmer list. Both of these lists have vacancies on them, and that's all I have to say about that.
I'll make a motion to appoint Delaney and Mary Grobel.
I would second that.
A motion and a second to approve the appointment of Joe Delaney and Mary Goebel to the Eminent Domain Compensation Commission. I do want to ask a question, if I might, in discussion, and that is to ask if we need to add an end date to either of these positions?
Quite honestly, as this one is on there, these are things you do on an annual basis. Most typically, this happens in 6 months from now. But these two came in now. They were on a list that was distributed by county staff, and they came in. So essentially, their term will be through the end of the fiscal year next year.
Okay, very good.
By
So it's,
definition, I failed to note that in my discussion.
are there
it's in
any
the
other
memo.
questions for Ed? Very good. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. The next commission on our agenda is item 9 under A, citizen appointments. It's Historic Preservation Commission. Ed, do you want to go ahead and set us up for this?
Yes, that starts on page 168 of the agenda packet. Under the purpose, there's a description of what that commission does. Right now, there's only one existing member of the commission with an unexpired term. There were a couple whose terms ended. Only one of them is asked to be reappointed. So this is one where if you look in my memo under terms, there are terms ending 2021, 2, and 3. So I ask that you be careful in the motions that you make we have to assign individuals to particular terms. So there were four applicants seeking a term. One of them is an individual that has been on the commission in the past, and the other 3 are new. So Mary Goebel, a female from rural Holy Cross, Sandra Marie Larson, a female from south of Dubuque, rural Dubuque, St. Donatus area. RRS Stewart is a person whose term just ended and is seeking reappointment. She's a female from Dubuque. And Mr. David Vanderha, a male from rural Piasta.
Were any of the applicants aware of the dates related to how long they anticipated serving based on their application?
The information about those end dates is in the commission information page. I don't think any county staff were specific in letting them know that they could be assigned a term that would end at different times, and none of them specified in their applications that they were seeking a commission term or a board term that would end in a particular date. So
Right.
That will be up to you to assign them to that.
I did speak with each of these applicants, and that wasn't an issue raised by myself or with them. So I would propose maybe to my colleagues that we just strike the 2021 end date, that's going to be here at the end of this year already, and extend as best we can these service dates out. It is known to be a 3-year term. So perhaps just the motions would be for the ending in the calendar year 22, mostly ending in the calendar year 23. If that makes sense to supervisors.
Yes.
Can we extend all of them to 23?
This is Ed, in the term cycle of how these are laid out, I encourage you to keep within the constraints of having terms that don't overlap too much, so that a portion of the board comes off at one time and then another portion at another time. The individual that I think is continuing, that is currently on the board, their term expires at the end of 2021. So essentially what you have is 2 in 2021, 2 in 2022, and 3 in 23. Just worked out that way. So shifting some of the terms and all in one year, I encourage you to keep that structure of some of them coming off each year. So it's been a challenge getting these volunteers. I don't know that it will be hopefully these are volunteers that are committed to the position and want to learn and grow with this, perhaps for a couple terms if they're interested. I don't see that as a major barrier that one of them would have a term that ends in 22. Hopefully they would just seek reappointment at that time.
I would make, I guess, a motion just to start it to appoint Mr. Stewart to a 3-year term as he has reapplied.
I will second that for RRS Stewart.
Yes, we have a motion and a second then to appoint RRS Stewart, who's already serving on the board, to continue her appointment for a 3-year term. So that term then would be ending in 2023. Am I correct then? Is
Yes.
that the? Okay.
Yes.
All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
I would make a motion to appoint Mary Gable to a term that would expire on December 31st of 2022.
I will second that.
A motion and a second to appoint Mary Gable to a term that expires December 31st, 2022. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any opposed? Motion carries. I'll make a motion to appoint Sandra Marie Larson to a position on the Board of Historic Preservation Commission for a term that expires on December 31st, 2023.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the term of Sandra Marie Larson ending 2023. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Our last applicant is David Vandera. Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion to appoint Mr. Vandera to the Historic Preservation Commission to a term ending in December 31st of 2022.
That would
I'll
leave you
second
with
that.
okay. That would leave you with one term for 2023 available. There are
thought we didn't want all of them at one shot, or how? I guess I misunderstood you.
I think we might be
Yes. What I meant by my remark was that you should not change any of the end dates. You should not convert a 2022 to a 2023. That was not a reflection on when these individuals should be appointed. They should just fit into one of the slots that we have there. So,
right. If we approve Supervisor Potoff's motion, I think we'll have 2 candidates with terms ending in 22 and 2 candidates ending in 2023. So I think it's a fine motion.
Okay.
Is there any confusion among the board members?
No.
Did we get a second on Mr. Potoff's motion?
Yes, I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve David Vandera's application to the Historic Preservation Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2022. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you. To the next commission or stakeholders group, agenda packet, page 177. If I might begin, Ed, just with I think some context for this. This stakeholders mental health / developmental disability stakeholders. This group predates the regionalization of mental health and disability services under the Iowa Code. So some years ago, I think 7 years ago, perhaps 9 years ago, when the East Central region was developed, this stakeholders group was more by county preference that we continued to maintain this group. They no longer necessarily provide technical assistance. So those positions have kind of been opened and folks coming and going, but I'm not sure that that mission is exactly the same right now. And also, I just wanted to tell my colleagues in my conversation with Jody Jansen, our coordinator who retired at the end of this last calendar year, she indicated she told this last stakeholders meeting group that they are kind of suspended. They don't have any future meeting dates until we hire our new director of that department. So, you know, whether we appoint these individuals to this board and commission, I'm not sure there's an active group. It's kind of in suspension until we get that department right. So how do you want to go? We could table these applications. I'm hesitant to, we can, but to confirm their appointment when there's nothing, there's not even a future meeting date pending, I don't believe. Thoughts?
I'd be in favor of confirming their appointments and then moving forward with the additional items you mentioned.
I would agree with that. I think we need to make the appointments, and whenever the new director, you know, decides to have a meeting, she knows who she need to contact that way, I guess.
Okay. I would be
I'll make a
looking for-
motion to approve the two applicants, David Wagner and Brooklyn Williams, to the advocacy sector position.
I would second that motion.
And I will go back and say, asking Supervisor Wickham if his motion included the years that he was assigning those two applicants to. There are two positions whose terms could end in 2023. There are three positions with terms that end in 2022. So you can pick same year or a mixed years for both of those individuals, but it would be helpful to have a term end assigned to each of the individuals, or if it's the same year for both of those individuals.
The same year for both of those, ending 6/30/2023.
Thank you.
And Supervisor Potoff, is that fine with your second?
Yes, yes.
We have a motion and a second approving the appointment of David Wagner and Brooklyn Williams to the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Stakeholders Board for a term ending in June 30th of 2023. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. The next committee that we will address is the Mental Health, turn the page, the Sunnycrest Advisory Board of Directors. It's page 182 of the packet, and it is up for us to see on the shared screen. Ed, you want to give us some highlights here?
Yes, there are 6 vacant positions on this board. There are 4 applicants for those positions. One of those 4 is someone whose term just recently expired and had been on the board and is seeking reappointment. There are, again, like the last couple ones that we have had, there are a couple different terms because there's so many vacancies. There's 2 terms that end in 22, 2 terms in 23, and 2 at the end of 24. So as you make motions, I ask that you note for those individuals when you're proposing that their term would end at the end of which year, calendar
Good.
year.
Just for purposes of transparency, I want to make my colleagues aware that the applicant Ronald Healy, he is my husband's uncle. So just to put that out there, he has been on this advisory board and it predates my election. But I just want to have you be aware for transparency.
Okay.
Terms are 4 years. And I haven't highlighted that very much, but just of the 3 members on the board, 1 is male and 2 are female. So in general, you have 2 females and 2 males. Even if you were to appoint them all, you still are fitting in with the gender balance of this particular board.
Okay. I would make a motion to appoint Ron Healy and Mary Gable to the board with their terms expiring December 31st of 2024. And
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Mary Gable and Ron Healy to the Sunnycrest Advisory Board with a term expiring on December 31st, 2024. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
And then I'd make a motion to appoint Peggy Stockel and Charles Westfall to the Sunnycrest Advisory Board with terms expiring December 31st of 2023.
I will second that.
A motion and a second to Peg Stokel and Charles Westfall to the Sunnycrest Advisory Board with a term ending December 31st, 2023. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Thank you. If my notes are correct, we need now go back to, we'll go to the Board of Health and look at our appointments at the Board of Health. If that can be, all right, it's up on the screen, very good. Ed, you want to hit the highlights here for us?
I need somebody to remind you what page we're on. I'm just scrolling endlessly. Here we go.
That's okay. We'll get that for you. Page 120 of the
Okay.
board packet. It's
Yep.
page 4 of your memorandum.
Okay, the Board of Health supervisors have 5 positions to appoint. It's a 9-member board. So of the current 4 appointed members, 2 are male and 2 are female. That provides you with a fair amount of latitude in terms of who, at least from the prescribed gender relationship, gives you some wide latitude for those 5. Obviously, if you look, there is a notable mix of males and females that have submitted for consideration. There are 12 applicants in the packet for consideration for those 5 positions to appoint. Within that group of 12, 4 of them are individuals that were serving and whose terms just ended. I noted them with an I guess, which is typical for incumbent. It's not quite the right thing, but I think that helps you understand which ones those are. Those 4 are all ones that were appointed to fill someone else's term in the past calendar year. I'd also note that during the past year, the Board of Supervisors expanded the size of the Board of Health from 7 to 9. And administratively, when that happened, those terms were set to expire when they were created at the end of the calendar year. So right now, this is a board that, like others, it has 9 members with 3-year terms. That they should be coming up 1/3 1 year, the next third the next year, and another third the next year. Currently, the way administratively these 5 seats are, they all ended in December 2020. And so right now, unless you change them to get back onto that stagger, they're all looking at 3-year terms that would end in 2023, at the end of 2023. That's something that you can either choose to deal with now, or I guess we could deal with that later.
So what might be preferable, at least from an administration look at this, is perhaps one that ends in the in 2021, one in 2 in 2022, and 2 in 2023. Is that would give us a pattern that would not cause this kind of situation again?
Yes, it would, Supervisor McDonough, yes.
Okay. So that is what go ahead.
Would you repeat how you wanted to stagger that? 1 for 21?
2 for
Yes.
22 and 2 for 23. Those are my thoughts. Obviously, that's I care a great deal how my colleagues feel about this.
Well, I would think that's a good idea to get kind of a little more separation, that we don't have this many open seats at one time. But
Right.
I'm comfortable with that. Another maybe point just to add, as far as maybe to get some context, many of the applicants are very concerned about obviously health issues, and specifically probably related to the pandemic. And there is one and possibly two that might have a stronger advocacy towards environmental and the water component of our ongoing operations for water and well inspections, and that would be Adam Hoffman, because I'm familiar with his background, and possibly David Osendorf. He has a degree in chemistry, but I'm just assuming and making that connection. So I don't know if the board would be interested in having one person on the Board of Health that has kind of more of an advocacy and interest in the environmental component.
I would think that would be a very positive thing there, Supervisor Wickham. I think with Tim leaving and having the water testing experience, I think we kind of need to replace that for the wells and stuff.
If I might just, there is a comment in chat that I think we just need to pause a minute, and I'm just going to, again, put this out right now. We're talking about terms. The state code says it should be, they are appointing for a 3-year term, and the Board of Health is established by the Iowa Code. So it might be that we can, obviously we're going to have to defer to the code. If we can't give these staggered terms for some reason, then that's going to present, we'll have to restructure our final decisions. Would we agree about that? Obviously. So if we go ahead and
I think it would. Yeah, I think it'd be okay to put the names in there, and some dates change. I think that would be a good first step.
Right. Okay. I'm also supportive of Adam Hoffman. I'd like to see, and I would like to see him be on a long term. So I would recommend him for that term of ending in 2023 as an individual that has focus and will give energy to the Board of Health with regard to environmental issues. Ed, you have your hand raised.
I do. I'm going to use my fingers here. There was a discussion that you had briefly about when these terms might end. Aside from the point that was made in the chat, in order to follow that 3 years, 3 of the ones coming up on one particular year, 3 the next year, and 3 the following year, there should be 3 appointed to 2023, 1 appointed to 2022, and 1 appointed to 2021. And I'm basing that looking at the existing term schedule on the Board of Health's website. So as I look at it, there are 1 term that would end in 2021, 1 in 22, and 3 of them in 2023. That would then give the board that 3-3-3 for the 9 members.
Okay.
Very good. I will make a motion to appoint Adam Hoffman to the Board of Health for the 2023 term.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second appointing Adam Hoffman to the Dubuque County Board of Health for a term that will expire in 2023. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Adam Hoffman is appointed to the Board of Health.
If I could, Supervisor McDonough, I had one more comment to make about this particular board that's
Of course.
unlike the others in the state code, and that's listed at the top of my memo page under purpose. At least one of the Board of Health members, the state would like to have as a licensed doctor of medicine or as an osteopathic physician in the state of Iowa. Currently, there is an existing medical doctor, it's an oncologist, Bobby Conaroo, who does fill that position. But that is a requirement that someone with that certification and licensure in the state of Iowa serve on that board. Dr. Conaroo's term ends in 2022. There is a one individual out of this group that, at least what they wrote on the paper, I did not check, but is a medical doctor.
I'll make a motion to appoint Dr. Hendrick Schultz to the Dubuque County Board of Health for a term that ends in 2023.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Well, I will have one comment that that will basically eliminate the other one of the incumbents at the Board of Health. And I feel that's unfortunate, but we do need the medical community representative, and Dr. Schultz would be wonderful, I think, for the board. But I would like to thank all the incumbents and certainly thank them for reapplying. And they did great work during the pandemic, and specifically related to the mask mandate, passing that twice and having a lot of fortitude and just real leaning forward to try to do the best they can to help keep citizens of Dubuque County safe. But one of those incumbents now will be unable to continue to serve. And I'm not sure which one, but I'd like to thank all of those incumbents, those four: Corey Young, Lynn Sutton, Suzanne Stroud, and Katie Jones, for their service.
Agreed. Thank you, Supervisor Wickham, for those words. That's something I think it's well said. Supervisor Potoff, did you want to add anything with regard to those board positions at this time?
No, I would reiterate what Supervisor Wickham said. I'd like to thank everyone for their time and energy they expended. Obviously, I talked to several of them on the phone, and they're all aware of the number of applicants and the limited number of seats. So
good. Well, we have a motion and a second to appoint Dr. Hendrick Schultz to the Board of Health for a term ending in 2023. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Appointing Dr. Hendrick Schultz to the Board of Health. So we will need one further applicant for the term ending in 2023. And I guess to that end, I would move approval of the application of Katie Jones to the Board of Health for a period ending in 2023.
I would
I will
second
second that.
Oh, sorry.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, appointing Katie Jones, reappointing Katie to the Board of Health for a term ending in 2023. Next, we'll need an applicant for the year 2022.
I would make a motion to appoint Suzanne Stroud to that position, ending in 2022.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a need for any discussion? Hearing nothing, I will ask all those in favor of the appointment of Suzanne Stroud to the Board of Health for a term ending in 2022, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Suzanne Stroud is reappointed. Our final applicant is for a term of just 1 year, ending at the end of this year in 2021. And I would have a candidate that I'd like to address with that. I know that Ed has given us some geographical information, but if you look at the contents of the applications before us, you'll see that some individuals represent different parts of our community and our citizenry. And I would like to have us address a unique application of Corey Young. He has been serving on the Board of Health since August, I believe. And even with barriers of, we've got to get him some better technology, I think, to be able to participate more fully. He's been at many meetings, coming directly even from work. And his position in the community certainly gives him a perspective that would not normally be on this Board of Health and won't be on the Board of Health if we don't support his candidacy. So for fear of maybe being too dominant as a chair in this matter, I'd like to move that Corey Young be reappointed to the Board of Health for a term ending in at the end of this year. Is there a second to my motion?
I will second that. I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any questions?
And the last piece I'd like to state, since this is our last appointment, that to appreciate all the other applicants, and I know many of them, and they're really good people who would have added great value to the Board of Health. And so I'm just extremely pleased that we've had this amount of outreach and interest related to volunteering for these positions. And I'm also very pleased that we're able to appoint 3 out of the 4 individuals that were incumbents. And I'd like to thank Lynn Sutton for her service over this last year.
Absolutely, I agree completely. Harley, any thoughts?
I would reiterate that also. Definitely want to thank everybody for their interest and Lynn for her service for the past year here.
We have a motion and a second before us to appoint Corey Young to the Dubuque County Board of Health for a term of 1 year. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, appointing Corey Young, reappointing him to the board. Very good. I believe our last board or commission is the Conservation Board. Ed, it's in your agenda packet, page 146, page 5 of your referendum. We do have advantage here of having one of our own. Supervisor Wickham serves on the Conservation Board currently. I know this will be for an appointment for a period of 5-year term. So I would ask if he wants to make any opening comments, and then also Ed, if you want to give us any structure you think we need to have.
I'm actually going to start before Supervisor Wickham. There are 4 existing board members. You are being asked to appoint 1 of the existing 4 members. 2 are male and 2 are female. So you are wide open in terms of complying with state law on gender balance. And a number of these applicants come from a variety of areas around the county. And this is for a term that is, I believe, a 5-year term. That's all I have, Mr. Supervisor Wickham.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would add is I think we did look at potentially the ability to expand the Conservation Board, but under Iowa code, it states 5 members. And so unlike the Board of Health, we are locked into 5 members. So this would be a great example where you'd want to expand the board possibly to 7 to allow more involvement. But right now, state code does not provide that from my understanding.
I know that I spoke to all of the applicants. I believe only one individual was I not able to actually speak with, but in trying to put some context for the Conservation Board too, in the comprehensive plan that's just been continued, and kind of context of the need that the county has at this time. Certainly an enthusiasm for conservation is paramount, but also skills and perhaps a unique perspective maybe to help raise and look at stretching the work that the board's done in the past, to look at, we need a tremendous commitment to some fundraising skill here as well. And I know there's interest in land acquisition. So the comprehensive plan, I would remind my colleagues, and Jay, you know this well, you're looking at $65 million to bring all of that to life. And certainly we're not intending in any way to do that through taxpayer funding. So I was looking, in my mind, I was looking at these applicants for a kind of a stretch candidate that would be looking to some unique skills that maybe we don't have. So there is a particular individual that I think fits that the best, in my opinion. So, you know, that's the view that I'm taking as I look at who I would bring forward to my colleagues to consider. Are there other factors that people want to talk about in terms of skills or priorities before we would actually maybe put forth the name of someone in for consideration?
Well, since
No,
you brought up the funding aspect, you know, the Conservation Board has been supported pretty well by the Board of Supervisors over the last 4 years here, and overall related to kind of capital programs, and sometimes those include picnic benches, so we don't get too out of whack. But there are also a few, you know, real good gems in there. We've got those appropriation levels up to 1.3 million. And that appropriation request has come from the Conservation Board unanimously, once again, to the Board of Supervisors. And so my first and foremost hope that any member on this board would like to continue that level and not actually go back or regress related to the funding to conservation. So that would be my first level. And then, as Supervisor McDonough mentioned, certainly there are, you know, opportunities that the strategic plan did lay out. And those would include additional funding from potential state and federal sources that we might be able to leverage the existing investment we've made in the conservation funding to move forward. But first and foremost, I believe we've got to hold serve, and we've got to be able to keep the funding levels that we've acquired over the last 4 years. The overall, you know, involvement, participation from the public related to the use of all the conservation parks is an all-time high. And at the strategic planning sessions and the listening sessions, the amount of people, most prior to the pandemic, was also very, very great, where we received hundreds and hundreds of responses and had hundreds and hundreds of people attended a variety of different events. So a lot of momentum in conservation and a lot of interest from the public. So whoever serves on this board, I'm looking forward to working with them. And I think there's a lot of good candidates. And so since I'm talking, I'll just finish here. My probably 1 and 2 would be Chuck Eisenhart. He's active, he attends the meetings. My number 2 would probably be Mark Wagner, who was on the board that I replaced, is passionate about conservation as well. And then I would comment that I did have a good discussion with George Davis as well, and he also voiced passion and consideration for conservation.
Supervisor Potoff, do you have any thoughts or anything you want to share?
Well, we obviously have some very qualified candidates. I spent numerous hours going through applications and talking to these people. Obviously, I'm kind of on the same line as Supervisor Wickham, kind of between George Davis and Mark Wagner.
Well, in light of that, George Davis is the candidate that I would bring forward. He applied, I think, very early and has been persistent in his interest and in his follow-up with me. And it seems as though maybe he's visited with you both as well. So at this time, I would move approval of the application of George Davis for a term on the Dubuque County Conservation Board, a term of 5 years.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second supporting the application of George Davis. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Very good, motion carries. And I just have to tell my colleagues, the reason I have to ask for opposed is that because of my hearing loss, when you weigh in at the same time, which is fine, I can't discern whether there's one vote or two. So if I ask for opposed, it is just to give opportunity to make sure that we have the record straight. So very good, thank you.
Very good.
Very good. So wonderful. Well, that seemed to be well done, everyone. And I believe, Ed, unless you can correct me, I think that brings us through the work of the citizen appointments is to the boards and commissions. Is that correct?
That is correct. I would note that when there was an initial solicitation of applications, the zoning commission was one that was included on that list. That was an error on our end. There are no vacancies on that commission. So there was one individual that applied at that time, and we'll just keep those. So as a further wrap up, I'd like to note that we will be administratively on our end, we will be communicating with the individuals that you have reappointed by email. And we will also be communicating with the applicants that applied that were not appointed today. We will express in that the appreciation that the supervisors discussed today during the meeting. And we will also let them know that their applications will be held on file for a year through the end of this calendar year.
Very good. Continuing on with the agenda
Excuse me,
before
please.
us.
Chair McDonough, could you please verify for the minutes who the second person was for the Conservation Board?
There was
There's only one appointee, Mary, to the Conservation
There was
Board.
only one appointee? Okay.
Yes, George
Thank
Davis.
you.
Mhm. Very good. Thank you, Mary, for the question. I appreciate you keeping us straight with the record.
And can I interrupt for a second?
Of course.
Would we, going back to these boards and that, obviously we have several positions open yet. One on the airport zoning, eminent domain has several, historic preservation, and the Sunnycrest Advisory Board. The mental health board obviously has several open seats, but at a given time, I guess, being with their status. But for those open seats, would we want to maybe put something out to the public saying we have these seats open if anybody'd be interested in applying, just give, a 2-week window, say apply by this date. And if there's certain, I guess, terms ending in, whenever, if that could be listed where they could put what term, if they maybe somebody would want to just try something for a year to see if they liked it before they jumped into a 3-year term or something to that effect to try to fill some of these boards. Or
I'm not opposed to that. I think there's going to be a natural kind of a clearing that will happen here that might make some things more obvious. We will update the open vacancies report. And I know that Ed and Dawn have been working on this with Tanya to try to give this whole concept a little bit more structure. So maybe my recommendation would be to kind of let the dust settle a little bit and then to see kind of where we are. We're going to have a new director of disability services. So just maybe check back maybe in 30 days. The open vacancies tend to stick around on our agendas to keep it top of mind. So, but yeah, we've made tremendous progress. So thank you to my colleagues as well, that whether it's through joint efforts of the whole team, and I include our significant executive staff too, and the supervisors just bringing the word out that citizens, and maybe it's maybe a tiny sliver of progress from the pandemic. Folks are tuning into local board work, so that's great. Is that okay with you, Harley? That's kind of
yeah,
long
that's
answer,
fine. That's fine.
Supervisor Wickham, any thought on that?
Yep, that sounds good. I like the work we've done. I'm ready for the next agenda item.
All right, so we'll turn next to the Board of Supervisors appointment. There was one item that was left from the commissions and boards that we do the work on, that we are appointed to, and this is one that Dave Baker had invested time and energy in the creation of this, and I think he was even elected to an official position on this. I don't know what happens to that. Ed, you've done a little bit of research on this. Can you bring us up to speed on the Northeast Iowa workforce area?
Dave Baker was the essentially, I'll call it the chair, the lead chief elected official on the chief elected official board. Since he is no longer a supervisor, they have appointed another supervisor. I believe it's a John Beard from Winneshiek County is now the filling that position. In the packet, I put a memo with just a little bit of background because this is a new entity relatively. You approved, the county approved participation in that 28E entity with 19 other counties, total of 20. This is driven by the 2014 Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that stipulates that there are two boards. There's a chief elected official board and a local workforce development advisory board that's made up of non-elected officials, business leaders, people in economic development or workforce development. You're being asked to appoint an elected official, a county supervisor, to the chief elected official board of the Northeast Iowa workforce development area. This group meets at 4 times a year in official meetings, quarterly, and has a couple other meetings that might be programmatic. So it might end up being something that is about 6 meetings a year. Currently, they're meeting by Zoom. It is a large area, and the executive director indicated that at some time they may anticipate moving these meetings around to different geographic areas. There are 2 metro areas and 1 micropolitan area, Mason City. I don't know exactly how they're going to do that, but there conceivably could be some travel if the board chooses, but that board chooses, or it may remain as a Zoom thing. There are other appointments that board in total makes for the local workforce development advisory board. So this is the only one that you're being asked to do, but other people from Dubuque County likely will be participating on the other board.
And I saw that you put the next 2 anticipated meeting dates, one of which I think is next week, and
Yes.
on another quarterly date.
Those are likely Zoom. Those are Zoom meetings.
Right. I can't serve on this board and also be able to serve on the Clark University Board of Trustees. So this is a hard conflict for me on these scheduled dates. I've checked my calendar for those 2. So I'm going to ask either of my colleagues to do this at this time, and understand that, next year we'll be looking at the work that's involved and the travel. This could be, even though it's only quarterly, Harley, if this goes back on the road, you're on the road to Eldora, you're on the road around. So, and the same thing, of course, would be true with Supervisor Wickham's schedule. So, but I'm going to ask you that I not be asked to do this because I have a hard conflict with the next 2 dates for certain.
Okay.
Would either of my colleagues be interested in attending the meeting? And I don't know. In my mind right now, I'm listening to Chair Baker when he was, and he stressed the work that this group does is important. So I don't think we should take light of it. It's important for certainly the economic recovery, I think, of our community at this time as well. Supervisor Wickham, what are your thoughts about this? You've served us longest as a supervisor.
Yeah, at one point I actually was on this board, and so the multi-counties, and it's even grown since I served on that board, are very challenging. Just to gain cohesiveness, familiarity, redundancy, and just a working relationship. I would be looking to, potentially get a delegate of somebody who has that passion for workforce development. It might even come from the Dubuque City Council. They're our largest workforce in the city of Dubuque, is the hub for workforce. Not to discount too highly, Cascade and Dyersville and other communities, but that might be a delegation that we can look to extend to, unless Supervisor Potoff is interested in serving. But at this point, I am not interested in serving in this post.
So here's the situation. If we're looking at a delegate, then Ed, you're going to have to go back and research into that to see if there's the opportunity for us to appoint someone. And then, Harley, you're free to nominate yourself, sir. But if you're going to have the same concern, it's hard to be effective with 20 members of county membership. It just is. It's a lot like the juvenile detention center work. So we can explore the ability of a delegate to get someone who's got professional capacity. If you want to do that, and we can put this on the board agenda for another week or two out.
I can try it. See how it works. If find out maybe about a delegate. We have quite a few commitments already, but
well,
if
and I
it's only-
remember right, and I remember that feeling, actually, being a new supervisor and having a lot of commitments, and you realize you don't even know what your calendar probably looks like maybe for this week yet.
right. But I would be willing. I think it's important that we have a voice on that board. So I guess I would be willing to take that on.
I will turn that into a motion. I would look to appoint Supervisor Potoff to the officials board of the Northeast Iowa Workforce Area.
And I will second that. In some discussion, I want to extend to my colleague that if this isn't fitting, or it isn't, you don't feel whichever of these appointments any of us feels needs to be traded, shared, or reassigned, I'd like to be part of a board that's willing to listen to that and to make do. So in light of that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify yes by saying aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Supervisor Potoff. Next on our agenda, we have a trustee position. I think, do we just have one for Liberty Township? And there's another name that's familiar to us from this morning's work. There's Mary Gable again, Harley, stepping forward to be the trustee for the Township of Liberty. Do we have a motion to approve that application?
I would make a motion to approve that.
And I will second it.
Motion and a second to approve the application of Mary Gable to the trustee position for Liberty Township. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Chair McDonough, there were 2 applicants for that.
Well, there you go.
Did you scroll down?
On page 261, there is another applicant for Liberty trustee, a Jeff Arnold.
Okay, if I could withdraw the previous motion that I had made.
Mary, what does the record show? Have we confirmed?
Did you call for a vote? You had a first and a second, but did you call for the vote? I was waiting for you to scroll down to the next applicant.
Very good. I'm sorry, it's my error. Have you recorded a vote?
No, I have not.
Okay. And we have a withdrawal of the second. Was that your second, Harley?
Yes, I would make a motion for Mr. Arnold as a trustee for Liberty. Nothing against Ms. Gable, but given the recent appointments to, I think, 3 boards, I believe her plate may be getting a little full. So I would make a motion to approve Jeff Arnold for the trustee for Liberty Township.
Do we have a second?
And I will second that. I will second that.
We have a motion and a second then to appoint the application of Jeff Arnold as trustee for Liberty Township. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. My apologies to my colleagues. All right. Moving on, we just have an open vacancy, which now I believe will be updated, and it will be dated, making certain that we always put a date on this so we know that we've got the most recent copy and addition before us. This will be the vacancies for the remaining commissions and boards. I don't think there's any action needed there. It's informational only, is that correct?
Yes.
Right, very good. Moving on the agenda, item number 10, personnel requisitions. There's no personnel requisition at this time. Number 11, tabled pending items. We do have one tabled item from this meeting, which is the Sunnycrest pay resolution. And I'll just note that again, what remains tabled until later in our meeting into work sessions. So we'll go to public comments. Are there any individuals of the public who wish to address the board on matters of which are concerned to them, but they were not on the agenda? If you would like to raise your hand in electronic format, and you'll be given 3 minutes to address the board. You'll need to give your name and your home address. You can also indicate in chat if you wish to address us. I don't see anything. Ed's giving me a head shake that he sees nothing. Very good. We will move on to the agenda then. We have a remaining work session, which would be for the COVID update. If someone could help me, we're not going to adjourn this meeting. We're going to just continue with work sessions. Is that correct, Mary?
Yes, it is.
Very good, thank you. So going to the COVID update portion of our meeting, we I know Ed has asked out to the folks who normally report to us if they have an update for us to consider. There were some written updates that were received, and I'm not sure they're in the agenda packet, honestly, because they might have been email communications over the weekend. But perhaps, Ed, you can put forth and summarize those. I'm also interested in this at this time, obviously feedback from my colleagues, if we want something more formal than just opportunity for sharing as part of the COVID update. And I cannot see the full screen of attendees, so I don't know if Tammy Freiberger from Sunnycrest is with us and will give a report live.
Tammy is on the meeting.
Yes, I am. Hello.
Good morning. I hope you haven't waited endlessly. Thank you.
Not endlessly, because I arrived a little bit later than the 9. So what I have for updates for everybody is for our level 1 monitoring area. We do have 2 NF residents post-hospitalization that we are monitoring. We do also have 3 residents who were exposed by their roommates that remain symptom-free, but nonetheless, we need to continue to monitor for 14 days. In our level 2 symptomatic area, we have 0. In our level 3 COVID unit area, currently right now, we have 9 COVID positive residents. One resident beyond those 9 was hospitalized related to COVID. They had had a monoclonal antibody infusion, and so whether or not it was side effects of that or directly related to the COVID, they were hospitalized. We have had 4 residents return to their village. So by IDPH, they would not be considered clinically completely resolved until they reach the 28-day mark, but they have passed their 10-day monitoring in the COVID area mark. This is all of our positives have been located in our 1 village area. We have a total resident census of 27 residents in that area. 1 of those 27 had been positive back on November 2nd. So we have had a total of 14 of our residents out of 26 then because of 1 previous positive. that have tested positive. So that's where we are at with that. We obviously continue the testing. We did do extra testing. We are required to do twice weekly testing. We did add in an extra testing session this past weekend on Saturday, and there were 0 positives at that time when we did that extra testing. However, this morning we did have 1 positive resident and we did have 1 positive staff. In terms of staff positivity, going just from the beginning of the year, we do currently have 6 staff who had tested positive. 1 of those 6 staff had just returned from vacation, and 4 out of those total 6 work in the affected village area where we are seeing COVID positive persons. We did have our vaccination clinic on the 5th. And so we actually, we were able to vaccinate 76 residents and 76 staff when Walgreens came in. With regard to the 76 residents, we had 2 NF residents, one who was at an Iowa City appointment and did not make it back in time, had also tested positive in the past, so it does have a certain level of natural immunity. So 2 and 1 resident whose guardian changed their mind last minute. So we do, so we are waiting to vaccinate them on our 2nd clinic that comes around. We also had 12 ICFID residents who had been positive at the time, so we're not eligible to get their vaccination on that date. So barring the 1 guardian, we think that they will probably agree. We anticipate 100% resident vaccination with regard to residents. Staff-wise, we have a total of 164 staff right now. That would be barring, we may be potentially adding new employees between now and then, so that number is just slightly fluid, that it could be a little bit up or a little bit more, or a little bit less if we, would have any terminations along the way. So that right now is 46.3% of our staff have been vaccinated. We did have 1 staff who backed out, who had signed out for it, but we did have 3 more staff who had not signed up for it, who changed their mind last minute and said, I want to get that vaccine. And Walgreens was really wonderful about not turning anybody away. They had brought a few extra, and with the person who had declined and the resident whose guardian changed their mind last minute, we were able to vaccinate those persons. We have an additional 9 staff that had wanted the vaccine and had signed up for it, but because of either testing positive for COVID or because they had a different illness, one of the questions is, are you feeling ill at this time? They had wanted the vaccination, but they need to wait for our January 26th. So I anticipate 9 more staff will be coming just for that. I had 4 staff who said, I don't want it round 1, but I want it round 2. So when I look at all the totals of the 9 who had wanted it, and then the 4 who had specifically said round 2, that leaves me with 75 staff unvaccinated. And I've been reaching out to them one by one. And I know that I have been able to review different bullet points with them. And I know I have 4 persons that have also kind of said, I didn't understand it like that before. I seem to understand a little bit better now. Can I get it right now? And I'm like, I wish I could give it to you right now. So I will be working very hard on that. I also have a campaign where I have many of our pictures that we took. I went around and I asked all the staff, now, why did you get your vaccine? Why did you get your vaccine? And we've had a multitude of different reasons, from my own respiratory status is compromised and I don't think I can handle getting COVID, to, my mom told me it was a good idea, to, I want life to get back to normal, to this is my social responsibility. And so I'm posting all of those all around Sunnycrest so that real people are putting their words in different ways in hopes of reaching some of the staff who have said no, or who are just kind of on that borderline with that. So that's kind of all I have on that. The clinic went really well. Walgreens was wonderful, and the staff were very well, and there was a nice positive energy in the air. I will say that we've had very few side effects, most of our side effects from staff who have received the vaccination have been mostly like my arm was sore. Of the 2 people that did report fever and chills and feeling icky, they actually did test positive. So, and that was not directly related to the vaccine. You know, when I did contact tracing and looking at where were you, what did you do? You know, there was a level of exposure even before that vaccination. You know, symptoms can show up 2 to 14 days after a person is exposed. So, so I can't consider those to be, I consider that to be more the COVID positive symptoms versus anything related to vaccinations. And
It's
so
just-
our second vaccination clinic, I expect to be pretty large because we're going to be having people getting their second vaccinations, and I'm going to be having a lot of first. And then they will get their, the first group going on the second session, they will get their second shot on the third session, if that all makes sense. So.
Well, what we're after, of course, is to increase that over 45% with our staff.
Absolutely. And I really do believe that I will reach 50%. I mean, at a minimum, that's a minimum. I am aiming for higher. You know, there are a few really reasons that I feel like I can't, you know, really move into further if it's a religious reason. There, you know, are some things that, you know, are difficult to, you know, try to persuade somebody. But I think there are a lot of people that, you know, like, just have the misunderstanding. Well, I heard you're going to get COVID if you get the COVID shot, or I heard it was a live virus, or, you know, some of the misconceptions that are out there that are just not true. And I think that, you know, a lot of people were able to see many of us who, you know, were able to get it and we were just fine. We did not have any lost time from work other than the one who, you know, thought it might have been related to the vaccine, but actually tested positive. So.
Right. And the vaccine did not give that person COVID.
No, it did not.
Recently, Tammy, we received, I think it was last night, some information, some commonly asked questions and answered, and it might address some of the things that are in chat too. Dr. Bobby Conru sent that over to us to disseminate on our website or something, putting down some commonly answered questions. And my own daughter-in-law has done a video at Crescent Community Health Center going through some of these things as well. So, you know, giving those kinds of the doctors surrounding us as a county, our Board of Health, and our now we have Dr. Schultz also. So we've got great resources, so we can, I know you're doing that too, but just be able to track down and get the highest quality answers to any question that anyone has as reason to be hesitant. I don't think our results are honestly that different than what I'm hearing from other, I don't know about the hospitals, and I don't know about medical associates, but other clinics, and that not everyone is stepping forward. And so it's about information. So I appreciate you working with the employees as your co-workers, right? And, you know, I know you're our interim director, but I thank you for that, and not letting it just be enough said that we're continuing to encourage them to be vaccinated. So very good. Do either of my colleagues have questions for Tammy?
I think Jay had some
Got a
questions.
comment. Yeah, this is Supervisor Wickham. So Tammy, thank you for the update on vaccination. I think it was very, very thorough and helped me get a picture of where we're at. And I'm also very pleased to hear that you're doing some proactive outreach related to, you know, offering maybe peer-to-peer type of response and understanding of why people got the vaccination. So I think all those measures are good. I would strongly encourage you to keep doing those. That said, I'd have to say I'm very disappointed that we're only at 46%, and we have 75 people that are unvaccinated. You know, my uncle died in a nursing home. He never left. The residents at Sunnycrest, when's the last time the residents of Sunnycrest have been out of the building?
It's been a while, unless it's been for a doctor's appointment. It's pretty, or we haven't had a lot of hospitalizations, but it has been a little bit since they've been able to go out with routine, normal appointments or visitations with their family members and have been able to go home.
Tammy, what's the
That was
date
my
of?
thought, and I know the And I know the individual staff members have been in this long haul. It's been difficult. It's been, I can only imagine being a healthcare professional, the amount of stress, the amount of trepidation, the amount of additional work and preparation that you and all your colleagues have gone after and have gone through. And so I don't want to minimize that. And so I really can appreciate that effort. That said, the vaccination is our relief and our hope to get out of this scenario. And we must get compliance within the medical community that are serving the most vulnerable to get vaccinated. So I would plead with all of the professionals at Sunnycrest to seriously consider and to take the vaccine. That is what we need to do at this point. If we do not, all the time, work, and energy that we put forth in the last year will be to naught. We have to get vaccinated.
And I definitely do agree. And I will be working very hard. And I know that I have a lot of my co-managers with me. And we, have different relationships with different staff, different responses. I think that we can reach more staff. So I'm very confident that we can, I know that I can't assure you or anybody that I will be able to get them all. But I do believe that I will be able to persuade, I guess, and convince, through factual information and through encouragement and through a buddy system that we will be able to do better. And they know that the date for this, so our next clinic is January 26th. And I just need to submit my information in 3 days before. And Walgreens has been very good. So I will obviously err on the side of a few more because I think that our current outbreak, and I guess I forgot to mention again too, that, we do not show up on the dashboard right now. And that being, we are a different level of care. Sunnycrest has 2 different levels of care. Doesn't mean we treat it any different than the previous outbreak that we had. Everything is, I don't want to say everything's the same because it's a different level of clientele. And so our staffing requirements are higher. We do need to have more staff to care for this particular group of individuals who presents with some behavioral challenges and things of that nature. But I do think that this current outbreak has changed, some staff, some of my last minute staff that came in and said they wanted it. They were a little frightened, by what they saw. So I will continue to work on that, Jay, I promise you.
I greatly appreciate those efforts, and I'm very confident you will put forth the best effort. Livelihoods, certainly are influenced to both staff and residents, and this is a life and death issue. People have died at Sunnycrest from COVID-19. We've got to reverse that trend. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Did you have additional questions with regard to the earlier tabled agenda item?
Tammy, actually, I want to ask you some more information about these vaccines.
Okay.
So the next date you're going to be having a clinic is January 26th. We're sitting here on January 11th, and you're identifying employees, and I would expect that this could be happening every day, who wish to have the vaccine who declined the first time. Are you saying there's no other way for them to be vaccinated? They have to wait until the 26th?
That is correct. That is when our clinic is scheduled. A lot of our people would not ever meet an age group that they would be able to receive it elsewhere. We have had, I know we had one staff person who also works at the hospital who was able to receive their vaccine because of their other place of employment. We are put on a list of being able to get it because we are direct healthcare employees, but it is my understanding that you can't just say, go to your physician's office, or you can't just go to a pharmacy and say, hey, I would like to get my vaccine. Many of our people would not meet the age requirement.
Of course.
They meet the healthcare requirement.
Right. But let's find out if there's a way to get something there earlier. If you have, I don't disagree with anything that's been said here, but is there another way to reach out and ask if there's vaccines for people, even if it's 6 people on this Friday? Why is it that we have to wait till the 26th? I know they're coming back for the second shot.
Yeah.
I get that, but there seems to be an artificial delay that we might be able to find another way if we ask and we put effort into saying, well, we've had some rethought, we need a small clinic or whatever, a catch up over. I mean, we're not talking about, it would be a coordination for you, but it's for the highest purpose.
Yeah, and I will check with my lead contact at Walgreens, because I also know that they are in relations with many of all the other nursing homes throughout the state of Iowa, and planning those clinics. But I will see if there is any alternate opportunities for in-between clinics.
Thank you. And then for Jay, do you have questions you want to bring forward for the Sunnycrest resolution?
Not at this time.
Do we have, Harley, do you have any questions about the resolution that we tabled? Do you have questions? Can we bring it up at this time and to talk about the passage of that resolution?
Yes, it'd be fine by me.
So for reference, it's on the agenda as an action item, paragraph 7A, resolution to approve the Sunnycrest exempt pay program extension. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I would make the motion to approve that resolution.
Do we have a second? I will be the second to the resolution. We have a motion and a second to the resolution to approve the Sunnycrest exempt pay program extension. Open the floor for discussion. There is no discussion. Supervisor Wickham, are you with us on audio? I just want to do a check.
10-4.
We have a motion to approve the resolution in a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. On the agenda, going back to additional COVID updates, we do have some written reports from individuals. Does anyone want to give brief summary for purpose of informing our community? Ed, do you want to hit just a couple highlights?
I can. Tom Berger from the Emergency Management Agency indicated that he did not have an update, so he has not provided anything right now. Feeling through a couple different windows. The notable thing from the Department of Health, which is not giving a presentation this morning, it indicated to me that starting today, although I would note that it has not happened yet, I've been refreshing my screen several times here. Today is when the state indicated that they would start showing in some fashion, I'm assuming a new tab, for lack of a better word, on vaccine delivery in every county. So that is not available yet, but they've indicated that sometime on the 11th it will be. We will let you know as soon as that happens. Other high-level thing that the Department of Health would like to note is that there aren't really, from the allotment provided to the county by the state, which is different than the allotment through Walgreens that Tammy Freiberger was just talking about going to long-term care facilities. For these state ones, Dubuque County does not have any lingering vaccines being unused. As they get them, they are processing them into, I think Patrice Lambert says, processing them into people's arms at a rapid rate. This morning, they're noting that the state provided an additional 1,000 Moderna doses that have been allocated to Dubuque County and that are arriving this week. And the incident management team is working to distribute those. We're still on group 1A to distribute and get those into medical clinics, including dental clinics around the county. That will not satisfy the entire level of 1A, but they are working toward that. I've asked them for a percentage or a general indication of how close we are getting through that. They don't have that yet, but we're hoping that you'll have that soon. Lastly, in a brief that Stacy Killian from the Visiting Nurse Association had said, sent to me, and then on to you. She is unavailable today because, as Patrice Lambert has noted last week, there are some counties that had an allocation of vaccine that exceeded what they needed in a certain sense, that they did not have as many hospital or healthcare employees, and that those are being redistributed. And as we speak this morning, Stacy Killian is picking up some of those surplus vaccines in Clayton County and bringing them back into Dubuque County, where they'll be delivered into that same pipeline into 1A group healthcare workers. That is all I have.
Very good. Is there any other questions or comments that colleagues have with regard to the updates that we've been given?
None for me.
None from me.
Just a few other very housekeeping points. I would like to know the frequent touch cleaning at the courthouse has been just summarily notified that it's over. I understand because FEMA's not reimbursing. Do we have individuals, or Dawn, is someone looking into that? There's some employee comments going back and forth about department heads not being notified before the all-wide posting went up.
Yes, and I have Chris on the meeting as well. So it wasn't just because of FEMA that reimbursement stopped in September. Our budget director had notified us. And so I had reached out to Chris to have him evaluate that because so we're looking at reestablishing that, but having reduced hours when there's more traffic in there. There really isn't an 8 or 8.5 hours of work, and depending on the flow of the people coming into the building. But departments do have access to disinfectant and wipes to wipe down areas, countertops, jointly used equipment as printers or copiers. So each department has that and has had that since March. We were quick to have that for them. So that will continue to happen as well.
Okay. And that will be, then you'll be addressing that, I'm assuming, in the department head meetings that you have, so that everyone's fully aware that, and when I'm in the courthouse, which isn't frequently, it's at least once a week, I am assuming and that things are being, contact surfaces we know is the source of community spread. So we just want to be aware of that and giving the best information to everyone. I know the note said that they're sanitizing stations and so forth, but do we feel that that's under control? Then we have a way forward with letting people know, and we're going to need to do some frequent touch cleaning, not 8.5 hours. That's not my decision, but certainly it's not going away completely, correct?
We'll work on that. And this is just for the courthouse. This does not include some of our other facilities.
Right. Very good. Okay. And then also just there's the space issues. Treasurers put some individuals in another space. The county law library is needed again. So I suppose our boardroom could be used for the treasurer's staff to spread out in. So someone's on that as well, correct?
Yep, I am doing a walkthrough this afternoon with some staff to look at some options. The boardroom may not be able to. We're going to be doing some moving as we're replacing carpet. So that has been spoken for, but we're looking at some options, doing a walkthrough this afternoon.
Well, people trump carpet, right? So we got to get that the social distancing and get it ready for that. So
yeah, but I also want to follow.
I 100% agree
with the courts. They had initially reserved that for some days, but they have not been utilizing that. So I do want to follow up with them and keep them informed of any movements we make.
Right, and then also that just brings do we have a 30-second high-level view of when the magistrate's courtroom will be completed? That will give us some additional space to maneuver in.
Currently, they're on schedule for finish by the end of January. So unless something changes, we're going to be ready to open it up for the courts at the end of the month.
Okay, that'd be excellent. Any day early is good because we need the space. I don't know if the community understands how tightly packed inside this historic building we really are, with people on every floor and in every closet, literally in some cases. So very good. Any other items for update, for COVID update? Moving on the agenda, we have a work session scheduled with the zoning administrator, Tammy Henry. You have two issues. I thank you for the summary brief that you included in the packet. It's helpful, and but just to go walk us through the zoning manager assignment. I don't know if Eric Schmeckel's here with us or not, but what do you need the Board of Supervisors to know, and what do you need us to do?
Okay, so I'll just, and you've seen the memo, so just a quick story to that is, for a long time, Eric and I have been discussing when this water department was developed more, that eventually we would like to see the floodplain manager's position go there. The floodplain manager's position basically is a position where we approve any permit that is being done in the floodplain for Dubuque County. Now, those permits cannot be issued unless they've already qualified and met everything they need for the Corps and the DNR. So Eric and I have discussed it for quite some time, and I can actually tell you that I know that Anthony does this position with for Delaware County. So in discussions I had last year with FEMA when they came in and did an audit, we talked about why is it currently, like in a lot of counties, it's sitting in zoning departments. And it's really a staffing issue. They don't have the place to put it. The engineers' offices can't take it because of their staffing issues. So they prefer it being in a water department or an engineering department. So with the development of Eric's department and the staff, we feel it's an appropriate time to go ahead and take this title and take it from me and this department and take the floodplain manager's position and title into Eric's new developed department. And I do see Eric's on. I know that he's in the building here and over in the conference room.
Right. And my question to you, Tammy, is we don't actually have a new county department. So, you know, it's with the commissioners. So Eric, how will that work? Does it have to be a county employee? I mean, what do we need to do to get this right?
It doesn't have to be technically a county employee. The way I think, as long as it's designated in Dubuque County to an assigned person, you know, whether that's Tammy or Anthony or myself, you know, the conversations Tammy and I have had regarding this is that it does make sense from erosion controls, stormwater permitting process, whether it's a minor permit or a major permit. I'm usually involved in a lot of floodplain projects in the county as it is. So I think it makes sense. Actually, you know, with the two new hires, I think it'll flow nicely. I don't have any problems. I think it's going to be set up in a way that allows better communication amongst DNR, Army Corps, and, you know, any contractors that are utilizing or having projects going in the floodplain.
Okay.
And if I may, Chair McDonough, so then what happens is basically we'll start making the right contacts. So the contacts start going towards Eric. But in speaking with Anthony, we talked about it and we were just going to kind of transition it over. But Anthony thought that we should make sure that we're making this an appointment, that we are publicly saying we're changing this title over.
I mean, I personally think it's a great thing. It should go, the designation should go where it is. I just want to be sure that we're clear with everyone. We don't have a department to handle this. We didn't, a previous board chose not to do that. So we have to find a home that makes sense for the workflow pardon the pun there, but just to be clear who that is and to designate that to FEMA sounds like it's the most important thing, and to DNR. Supervisor Wickham and Supervisors Pado.
Well, I think transferring it to Eric would be obviously a very good move with his knowledge of the watersheds and everything. So I wouldn't have an issue with that.
I also support everything that was said today and advocate for the change.
Very good. Is there anything so you don't need formal action from us, and I appreciate very much that you're informing us and letting us know what your intentions are. So well done on that regard.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you,
You're
Eric.
welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Timmy. Just if it's all right, I just want to take 1 minute, just kind of hot off the press. I want to introduce you to John Wiley. John is the newly hired urban conservation coordinator that will be working with the district and of course throughout Dubuque County on a lot of stormwater and drainage concerns and so forth. So he just met Anthony. We're going to hop over and meet Tammy next, but I just wanted to introduce him to the Board of Supervisors.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Welcome aboard, John.
Thank you.
Glad you're here, John.
Thank you, Eric.
Yep, thank you.
Last item on our agenda today then deals with the ongoing zoning violation case that we have been working on. I appreciated the update and did have a chance to drive by the Knapp Trailer Park. Jay, I know you see it frequently. What are our thoughts on the progress being made? Supervisor Wickham, I'd even just begin with you. What do you see as you go by? What appears to be changing? Oh, sorry. We'll go to you, Tammy.
Okay, so you know, I included some pictures in the packet, and then I did call and speak with Mr. Hoyne because he is the one that's actually doing the work on the project. And so he had some goals to have some more removal by the end of the month. And as is Mr. Wickham, Supervisor Wickham can notice, there are some little piles of debris there that have just gotten frozen into the snow. It is his intention to get those out as well. And as I spoke with him, as you see in your memo, he was contracted to do 7 mobile homes, and he is down to the last 3. Now, I have not been out there since last week, so I do not know if he was intending to try to get a couple more even maybe late last week, depending on weather than things, but he basically had told me that his goal would to have them completed by the end of this month. So there is progress being made with more to do, obviously.
Weather's obviously a big issue.
Yeah, they've made good progress. They've eliminated a lot of the vacant and really tore down facilities. So very good. Probably the only area of improvement could be on those small debris piles. And then prior to the snow, they burned some of the items and it smoldered for about 4 to 6 days. So I wouldn't be real excited living around that. But other than that, they're moving in the right direction.
And so to give a check back time again, what is it that we wish to see a report on? I know it's weather dependent and there's things that are frozen in the snow, but I really think that some of the good progress has been made because it's unequivocal that we intend to continue to make progress. So are we looking at a 30-day calendar report back or 60 days? Recognizing, Tammy, if there's no change, I know we're just adding work to your day to write me a report. So Supervisor Wickham and Potoff, what are you for report back? What would you like to see?
Go ahead, Jay.
I'm comfortable keeping this on agenda at least every 30 days.
Okay.
I would agree with that also, just to make sure we're still making progress.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll put it on the calendar for 30 days again.
Thank you very much, Tammy. I appreciate you really staying on top of this. It's
You're
helpful.
welcome.
So I believe that concludes the agenda. I'm going to do one last check with all of our staff to make sure I haven't skipped anything right across the agenda that I've overstepped. Ed, you seem concerned. Are we good? Very good.
Look
Good.
good from my end.
Was there something with magistrates or is that at 1 o'clock? And
We have an examination board. There's going to be a very short meeting with the parties there just to appoint a new person for the school district with the retirement of the county assessor.
okay.
We have to start down the road and
I thought they had something for magistrates or something. Maybe I was wrong. I don't remember what it was. No, that's fine.
it's okay.
Do we need 2 representatives at that meeting?
No,
Two
you didn't.
supervisors?
No, not for the conference board. The school representatives are the only ones who can vote on their appointment. So you do not need multiple representatives, but it is still an open meeting.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a
Well, second.
And a second to adjourn. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Stay well. Appreciate it. Good now.
Thanks, everyone.